By the way, is Kristie Skidmore. She is the new president, I should say, of the American Federation of Teachers, West Virginia. That was the position Fred Albert held for many years. Fred's still around sort of in an advisory capacity, and Kristie joins us via telephone. Kristie, good morning. You're on Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob, John, and Matt. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, fellas. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Where are you located this morning, Kristie?
I am at the AFT West Virginia office on Canal Boulevard East in Charleston.
Very good. Now, I talked to Dale Lee a little bit about you, and he said that you've been around the scene for quite some time. Can you give us your background?
Sure. Yes, I've been around. I was in my 30th year of teaching before being elected state president in November. I've served on the E-Board since 2017, the executive board of AFT West Virginia, that is. Prior to that, and actually currently serving as the president of AFT Randolph. It's a strong local. And now I'm here.
Oh, very good. And did they approach you about taking this position, succeeding Fred, or did you express the interest on your own?
It was a little bit of both. I think I was recognized for my leadership abilities. Like I said, AFT Randolph is a strong local, and I think that was recognized, and I did have some encouragement to pursue the office as Fred announced that he was ready to retire.
You've got a lot of challenges ahead, not the least of which is the health insurance for public employees. What are your goals as the president, and what would you like to at least address primarily?
Well, we do have some identified priorities here at AFT West Virginia. Some of those you have are probably already aware of. I'd like to also say that, we had some new executive board members coming in, and thankfully we have some that have been around for a while as well. And I feel like we have strong support not only from our executive board, from our members at this time to, put our priorities into action. Of course, we'd like to see some stability to PEIA. We'd like to see, work on attraction and retention of employees in the education field. And we all know that in order to do that, we need to increase our pay and benefits, make us more attractive here in West Virginia. So that'll be one of our goals to work on that. We're looking at improving and supporting safety in our schools. We know that students and staff deserve to work and learn in a safe environment. That's one of our goals and priorities at this time.
The governor said there was a projected projected $400 million hole in the budget. Obviously, that doesn't bode well for public employees who are looking to try to get a raise and more competitive pay. Have you had an opportunity to meet with any of the governor's staff at this point in order to express those priorities?
I have not. That is on my to-do list, but I have not at this time.
With that stated $400 million hole, have you written off being able to get a raise this year, or are you still optimistic? I do still have some optimism. We know that, we know that public education is a great equalizer. We know how important it is to our communities. We know how important it is to our state. We know that we are losing teachers. We know that we are losing service personnel. We know that the vehicle for education still has to roll, right? So I'm looking forward to working with those that are interested to try to find some solutions. We'd like to see more funds obviously roll into public education and not be diverted from public education to make, as I said, a safe and working environment for all, to improve our public education. And we know that that's multifaceted. John Gilstrap.
So, the serenity prayer, right? God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change.
Absolutely.
So, accepting the fact that pay and increased pay and so is probably not on the table for the near future, at least not in a meaningful way. Not to be defeatist, but be realist.
Our members at this time are not so much talking about an increase in pay, although we know that's important to make us attractive and competitive with surrounding states. But what they are most concerned about right now is stabilizing their benefits. Let me just make that clear.
Okay, and that was going to be my question. So, what is the non-pay factor that you use to attract and to keep teachers?
Yeah, well, I think we mentioned that, and I think that we know that way back, even before my time, that better benefits was something that helped offset the lack of better pay. But we're looking forward to trying to all public employees, representatives of public employees, are at the table together, trying to come up with some solutions. Hoping and optimistic that we can have some legislatures and the governor work with us to try to find some solutions. Hopeful that there are some that we haven't tapped yet and that we can, find some solutions.
What would be the key benefit? You get a magic wand. What would be the key benefit, not pay, would be the key benefit that you would wave out there to attract the most attention, most teachers?
If it's not pay?
Yeah,
I think if I really had a magic wand, it would have to include some pay. But if we're taking that completely out of the solution, we know that we need to protect employees and retirees' benefits, right? We need to stabilize premiums. We need to lower some co-pays, and we need some. We need some increase in predictability, right? I mean, we have a lot of educators and education employees, and when I say that, I mean our teachers and our service personnel. A lot of them are just they're tired of the stress of not knowing, and so some predictability would be very important as well.
Hi, Kristie. My name is Matt Harvey.
Hi, Matt.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I guess maybe you'll accept that as a congratulations. Maybe you'll be ready to pull your hair out after the session, but no, you'll do well.
Thank you.
So right now, PEIA is at an 80-20 split. Is that correct?
I believe so.
So does the percentage need to be changed, or what needs to happen?
State law says it needs to be 80-20, correct?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it a simple fix to make that 85-90?
I don't know that it's a simple fix. As I said, all involved parties are trying to look at this and try to come up with some viable solutions.
What about reforming the certifications for the teachers so you can attract more people into the profession?
I'm sorry, reforming certifications?
Correct. To be a teacher, you have to have certain certifications. Is that
correct?
Now, is there a way to reform that safely for the students that can open the pool up to more applicants?
I would think that instead of reforming that, that instead of making that the thing for attraction, that we need to improve, specifics around that. I think that would be the last resort. We want to attract highly qualified teachers, right? Especially today when we're dealing with student discipline issues that could come from, again, multi-faceted areas. We know that we're dealing with students in the classroom, not all students, let me say that, but we know that we're dealing with a great deal of students that, look, I just left. We're dealing with students that are experiencing trauma, and teachers are being asked to do more and more and more, and we need better, highly qualified. We need to attract the best.
Kristie Skidmore is our guest here on the program. Did you have a follow-up, Matt?
Well, I was going to ask about locality pay.
Go right ahead.
How about locality pay?
That kind of sort of already exists. I know I have peers in the field who work in areas that were making a lot more money than I was. If you look at the list of pay by county, you can see that there's already some differences in counties based on their resources, their local resources. We don't believe that would make a huge difference in the overall state effort to attract highly qualified teachers. It's just going to shift things around.
Do any of the school districts have and by school districts I mean counties, of course, have the ability to assist in paying back student loans? Kristie, do you know?
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
Do any of the counties in the state have a program that assists new teachers who maybe you sign on to teach your school district, your county, and you stay there for 10 years, and the resources are such that they help you pay back 50% of your student loans, or you get complete student loan forgiveness if you were educated in West Virginia and you teach in West Virginia?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not aware if there are at this time.
Is that a program that you would pursue?
I would be willing to look into the specifics of that and toss around the ideas of that. However, once again, I think that it may just shift attractability around, if that makes sense.
Well, if you could do it universally in the state, if you're educated in West Virginia and you teach in West Virginia for 5 years, 10 years, whatever the number is, I know there's various state governments do that, or nonprofits. There's various laws that exist to help retain employees and pay back student loans because of the overwhelming student loan debt that a lot of these kids face. I'm thinking if you can't attract a teacher with higher pay, that's limited by your tax base. Maybe you can attract people into the field of teaching by saying, if you get this degree, yeah, you're not going to get rich, but you're not going to be drowning in debt either. It might be another way to attack it.
Yeah. I mean, I think if it was a statewide initiative, it might be worth looking at.
Marshall University is well on their way to making tuition free for all of its students. They made a lot of progress in that. So
it helps when your president is a gajillionaire.
Well, I don't think he's using his own money. He might be. I don't know.
But he's got connections, though. Yeah. Kristie Skidmore, our guest here on the program. I'm going to go back to schools and a couple of the other things you mentioned, which is safety of the teachers in classrooms. And we've done, over the last 2 weeks, Kristie, several interviews learning more about this problem because it is among the chief concerns of teachers in the classroom, and that is their own safety and school discipline. What are your thoughts on attacking this problem and making some meaningful gains in terms of achieving a safer classroom for both teachers and students?
I think if we want to improve our academic outcomes, we need to improve the safety and the consistent instruction in the classrooms. And when we refer to safety and in the classrooms, not only do we have, I'm sure that you're aware of this, and many of our listeners at this time are aware of this. We do have instances where teachers and staff are being hurt in classrooms. Mm-hmm. Work should never hurt, right? But in addition to that, we have a lot of disruptions that occur. And so from that, we look at the mental health aspect, right? That affects our staff. That affects our students. So it's a big deal, and it's one of the things that, will cause staff to put their hands in the air and say, this just isn't worth it, So again, if we want great academic outcomes, we really need to look at safety, mental health aspects, and student and staff safety inside the classroom. And, I think our members, would like to be considered stakeholders in the process of improving all that. I think, they, and you can give them some support as in, hey, so-and-so is here, come talk to them. But we have a lot of students that need hands-on, one-on-one approaches, to improving their overall mental health and then that will filter into our classrooms. I hope that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I think, this is John, I've often said on this show, I think we think too hard about that particular issue. If we take, there are those that have true learning disabilities and that have developmental issues and such, take those out of the equation, and we'll concentrate on just the disruptive kid, the inmate running the asylum. The solution to this problem is, hey, parent, he's yours now. Get him out of the classroom, get him out of the school, and concentrate on the learning for the kids who want to learn, and get the miscreants out of the school.
I hear you, and that would be acceptable in an ideal situation, but what you have to think about is that's not always the ideal situation, and in many respects, I mean, we have, that's part of the problem. Let me just say it that way. We have a lot of grandparents in this state raising children and raising our students. I have seen great grandparents raising small children. What happens there a lot of times is staff at the school take on the roles that need to be taken when those great grandparents, don't have the energy, don't have the resources to do the parenting job. It happens.
And apparently it's more common than many people think, too. Not necessarily the great-grandparents, but the grandparents raising children. And I know, Matt, as a prosecuting attorney, you work in the criminal justice system, and you come across a lot of situations where kids either don't have parents or the parents aren't available to parent anymore.
Oh, yeah. It's one of the most devastating problems that we encounter. Mm-hmm. And of course, my work with the foundation also.
Yeah.
That's top of the mind for a lot of West Virginians is, because if we've lost a generation, then who's going to, and we're expecting grandparents, then we've lost a generation that's going to raise the next generation. Like we have nobody else to fall back on. So and teachers and school personnel are absolutely on the front line of a lot of problems that begin at the home.
But I feel sometimes that they don't have the allies, the people who are being most supportive, and I understand that. And we're not talking about kids who arrive unclean and such. I'm talking about the hardcore miscreant kids that are disrupting the classroom for all of the children who are trying to learn.
Well, they have alternative schools, correct? And Kristie, I mean, they have ways to separate those types of.
Not in all counties. Absolutely not. No, not in all counties. And we have some schools and counties that, lack of funding and looking at even less funding going forward. We may be facing some cuts to even support personnel that we have at this time. Cuts to counselors, cuts to nurses. I know it's been in the news. It's no secret that may be what's happening in Randolph County as we move forward. You have a large rural county spread out, and you're going to have to cut things that you don't absolutely are required to have, and those support services may be in jeopardy.
Should school boards consolidate?
I'm down to my final 30 seconds here. Go ahead and wrap it up, Kristie.
Well, I was just going to say from our conversations, something that came in to my mind. When I started teaching 30 years ago, teaching was a pure joy. And, teachers are unique individuals. All education employees are unique individuals. They're very driven, very motivated. They have big hearts. But they get filled up pretty quickly these days. And then when you're fighting for your benefits and your pay, most, especially young teachers, have 2 and 3 jobs. And then where do some of their creative juices go? So in a perfect world, if we could just wrap all this up and
Kristie, on that note, I do need to wrap up. I thank you very much for your time. It was great to have you on the show for the first time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Kristie